right, guys, it is episode 4. Thank you so much for joining again. I'm glad you guys are enjoying this series. I have KB here.
What up, guys?
So I mentioned him in episode 1. He is my business partner, aka husband, aka problem solver. You do a lot of things.
Life partner.
So he's going to help us with episode 4 because it's all about design, branding, website, SEO, a lot of things that are really, really important in business building and brand building. Let's get into building a website. So get technical, reference things as you need to.
Yeah, so online business, likely you're going to have an e-commerce shop. For my personal use and what we've used is Shopify, and it works really great. Basically, out of the box, e-commerce shop. Plug your products in, add images. It gives you a bunch of analytics, gives you marketing tools, and helps you run your business right off the start.
So when it comes to shipping, what do you recommend for that?
Okay, so for shipping, you could use Shopify to fulfill your shipments, but if you are getting more than say 10 orders a day, there's separate softwares out there. One I would recommend is ShipStation, and what you can do is basically bulk fulfill multiple orders at a time, something that could take you manually to fulfill maybe 50 orders in 2 hours, you could do in 2 minutes with ShipStation. This isn't an ad for ShipStation or anything at all, but it's something we started out using off a recommendation of someone that had an e-commerce business. Very intuitive. I started using it, and I realized once we started getting orders, how quickly you can fulfill orders.
Are there any other competitors out there that are good, or is this something that you highlight?
Yeah, there's I'm sure there's other stuff out there. A lot of people will work with a 3PL partner or contract out the shipping to someone else, so they might have their software, and that's completely fine to use.
Since we're on the subject of shipping, let's talk a little bit about that because we have quite the experience. We were doing our fulfillment for about 3-4 months, and it was so much work. I personally would not recommend that if you're starting a brand, and especially if you're limited in resources. If you're gonna dedicate your time shipping a product, you're probably losing on a lot of other important things like marketing, like branding, like social media, all of that stuff. So we looked into a third-party fulfillment center, which I feel like most brands use a third party, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say so.
So most brands use that. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, but just...
Depends where you are with your business. If you're starting out and the orders are low, it's a great idea to learn the process yourself and start picking and packing and shipping and learning that whole piece of it. So as your business grows and you grow into a 3PL partner, you know what to converse with them and how to set up the business for passing it over for them to do the shipping.
And is there any advice, because I know we had a horrible experience with our first fulfillment center, so is there any advice there?
Essentially, they hold all physical goods of your inventory, so you have to make sure that you really trust that partner.
Yeah, and honestly, I think recommendations are really important. So if you know anyone in the industry, I would just not be shy. Just reach out to them, even if it's an influencer or a business that you've never met the owner. Just DM them. Just be like, I really need help finding a good fulfillment center. Is there anyone you recommend if you're in LA or wherever your business is? I feel like our second fulfillment center came from a recommendation, and it just worked out really well. So yeah, that's it on fulfillment. Going back to website, because we kind of talked about ShipStation, all that stuff, but I kind of want to talk about design because I think this is so important. But I think design is one of those things that you have to always be on top of, change things all the time. So I think it is important for one of the business owners or business partners to know a little bit about design, don't you think?
At least have a good eye for design, because even if you outsource it to an agency to do all your design, you want to make sure that you can still be able to tweak stuff on your own rather than have to rely on an agency to make every design tweak for you.
For example, let's say it's a Sunday, we're kind of brainstorming and looking on our website, and we're like, man, I kind of wish this was different.
Yeah.
He'll literally get on the computer and change it within 10 minutes because he's learned how to, is it coding or what is it that I don't know anything about it. But
I mean, Shopify, depending on how familiar you are with the platform, on the front end, there's lots of tools it gives you to change the aesthetics of the site. Mm-hmm. Because I think for the purpose of this audience, most likely, you don't have the budget to start a business with a design agency.
Yeah. With this said, I don't want to discourage people that are maybe not tech savvy. I feel like you had to learn kind of by researching, Googling, watching videos and how-to tutorials and learn it. But if you can't do that, I mean, is there anything you recommend? Are there cheaper alternatives?
So my recommendation is when you start a business to, have a co-founder that well balances you. If you're not the person that's really tech savvy, you should probably, find someone to start the business, because it's not only just a Shopify store that you'll run into problems with. There might be other things. So it's good to have that balance. But definitely I would say you should be very confident in running your e-commerce shop.
For sure.
On your own.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about SEO.
So SEO stands for search engine optimization. Basically, what it means is if someone searches red creamy lipstick, you want your website to come up as high as possible on the Google search page so they could click on your product and find your website.
So are there any tips that you can give? Because for me, I feel like it's not just about what you write, but it's also, isn't like photography also important a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, having Google crawls on your website and basically analyzes it and says, hey, does this image have a text describing what it is? So Google knows that when someone searches for red lipstick, they're putting the right product out, the right keywords, the right meta phrases. If it's just a red lipstick, is it a creamy red lipstick? Little descriptor words always help SEO.
So is there anything else you want to talk about in terms of the website?
It's very easy to get a website, an e-commerce page up, but it's very difficult to make sure that you're going to get sales from it. And what I mean by that is you want to optimize your website, including SEO, for conversions. One specific tip is on your checkout page, you want to be able to have as many checkout options, meaning PayPal, Amazon Pay, or Apple Pay available on your checkout, because someone might come on there and they love to purchase with Amazon Pay. But if you don't have that there for them, less likelihood of them checking out.
Anything else specific? Like, I definitely want you to give as many tips as possible. So like anything specific they need to know. For example, make sure, I mean, this is very obvious, but make sure you have a mobile friendly website as well.
Definitely. Like the trend is that I believe like 75 to 80% of people that, shop on websites are doing it on mobile. So you should be optimizing your website for a mobile first experience and then desktop.
Yep. I'm on our mobile website right now and I'm just trying to see. So the first thing that I see when I get on here is visuals. It's very visual. And I think it depends on the business that you're starting, but I think visual is very important, right? Like getting
visuals is very important. Mm-hmm. You want to be very clear and concise in what you're trying to sell to someone.
Yeah. Like for me, when I visit a website and there's like some sort of a message, I personally like it. Whether that message changes all the time, that's fine. But like right now, our message is our pledge to donating 5% of all sales to the California Community COVID-19 Fund. But anyway, that's the message that we have right now. Yeah. But if it's not that, maybe it's something else like...
So usually we ask if you want to opt into our text messaging list or our email list, depending if we have like a special promotion going on. It's basically a notification bar that you want to make sure that any important information that someone lands on your website, that they see.
And I think if your business is unique, maybe a one-liner would be nice so that I can learn about it. So for example, if you're a sustainable clothing brand, it'd be nice for me to see that right when I visit your website. Sustainable clothing brand based out of Los Angeles. That way I'm like, okay, I know a little bit about this brand right off the bat. So any little message that will help me want to support you. Anything else that you want to cover in terms of a website?
So visual consistency is a big part of like visual branding. So making sure that consistency is there through text colors, fonts, images, all that, making it as consistent as possible makes the consumer feel more comfortable and want to stay on your website longer.
So we're going to get into branding now, which he kind of talked about visual branding, but I want to get really in depth about branding specifically on a website, because as a consumer, this is so important to me. When I'm shopping for something and things just seem so inconsistent, I'm just so turned off. So with that said, you want to maybe touch on like the visual branding, text, everything.
The definition of branding is how you make your consumers feel. Visual branding and having visual consistency is a big piece of having good branding for your company, because you want it, like I was just explaining, everything to look cohesive. You're in the same space.
Yeah, and I think part of that is maybe being consistent with your photography, whether you're using the same photographer or sticking to a specific style so they can tell that this is from Persona Cosmetics. Another thing is little, small, but font, for example. Make sure you're using the same font, the same size, again, so that you keep a consistent flow.
And what Sona's explaining is a visual design guideline that you want to build out for your brand as early on as possible. That way, it's kind of like your guide as to how everything should look visuals. And that doesn't just stop on website, because you want the whole consistency of the branding to follow through from the website to your emails to your social media, through your text messages, wherever you're sending out content. You want it to look cohesive and it's coming from one place rather than different places.
Right. Another thing is color. So for example, what he was mentioning, we have a style guide and it's several pages, which includes our brand colors, our brand voice, our brand font, our brand whatever.
Exactly.
And so it's just really well written so that if, for example, we have a new hire, we just give them that and they know exactly what is happening, so they can't use some random font on even Instagram because it's just off brand.
And what you mentioned was another piece of branding, like you said, your brand voice. So branding could come in a sense of how you communicate with your audience. Mm-hmm. And you want that tone to be consistent through all your communications as well, which is a big piece of good branding.
Right. And next week we're gonna talk about marketing in social media, and in social media we're gonna talk a lot about our voice, because I think it's so important. Yeah. But maybe you can talk a little bit about the website in terms of the voice.
When you first set out what you want your logo to look like, you should first set out and say, okay, what do I want the brand voice to sound like? Friendly, yet cool and edgy, let's just say.
Or it could be, I want it to be cute and flirty, or it could be like, I want it to be very professional. You know what I mean? So whatever that is, just defining that. Defining that,
and then making sure in any of your communications on your website, how you write your descriptions for your products, how you have, what your call to action button, the kind of verbs you use in there. Anywhere on the website where there's words, basically making sure you follow that brand voice.
I think for websites specifically too, when it comes to your voice, whatever that is, one thing I want to mention is the shorter, the better. Whatever message you want to get across, just do it in the most short and concise way. So for example, and I'll put a screen grab of this so you guys can see it, but on our product list, when you go to beneficial ingredients, you can see here we have high shine, so there's a little star there. We have nourishing, we've got the avocado oil, we've got gluten-free, comfortable, cruelty-free, vegan. It's just, to me, is so friendly and so consumable, and I just, looking at this is very clear that this is a very nourishing product.
Yeah, instead of writing a paragraph saying that this specific product is high shine and not sticky, it's cruelty-free, it's vegan, it's comfortable, and having bullet points, what we did is we titled a section called Why We Love It, and then we have very graphic icons showing what those specific points are.
Right, and the beneficial ingredients are not visual, but it's very clear and consumable. You can tell there's almond oil, avocado oil, shea butter. Super easy. Why those things are there? Also very easy. So think about those little things. Don't write long paragraphs because nobody has time to read them. Make it as easy as possible for your consumers.
I mean, we could talk all day about branding.
Yeah.
But I think this whole series will cover branding in every episode.
Yeah. But if you guys have any specific questions, please leave them in the comments below and be very specific. You can even talk about your specific business that you've already launched or you're thinking of launching and you have a struggle or an area you need help with, and we can maybe bring that as an example and kind of solve that problem. So that is it for episode 4. I hope you guys found it helpful. Do you want to close it?
Thanks for having me. And I guess in the comments, if you guys have questions, let us know. Maybe we'll come back, create more episodes, or we'll just answer them in the comments.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. See you next Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific. Make sure to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss these episodes. And if you're new, hit that subscribe button. I mean, you've come so far. Just hit it. Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.